my guy, Jon Fitch, looking sharp as ever. Look, he got the mug and everything. How you doing?
Good, man. It's hot out here.
Is it hot?
Yeah.
I don't know. This Florida heat is a little different. I don't know if it's as hot as Florida.
Well, you guys got the humidity, but it's hot and I don't know. There's some humidity. I think that's what it is. We don't usually have that humidity, but
yeah,
I was lifting in the garage and sweating. It's crazy.
Yeah, I bet. I had an opportunity to actually go out to California and visit Fox Sports and that whole area, and I was like, man, it says it's like 95. It does not feel like 95, and so I was like, yeah, 'cause we have humidity here. I'm like, damn, it makes that big of a difference. And I was like, this is 95 here.
Yeah. So, like, I don't even want to, like, 85 in Florida. I don't want to take that. I'll take 105 in Vegas over 85 in Florida any day.
Yeah, it's hot, man. And I work outside, too. It's hot. So let's get into it. UFC 241, one of the best fight cards of the year. I loved it. I was on the edge of my seat. And I had, like, two predictions. I was right on one of them, and I was wrong on the other. I said Nate Diaz is going to beat Anthony Pettis. I felt I had it written all over it. I just felt like the way he moves, his chin, his size, his endurance. I'm like, he's going to just put on a clinic and he's going to call somebody out. I thought he was going to call out Conor. He calls out Masvidal. Then I also said Daniel Cormier, I believe, will beat Stipe and call out John Jones. That obviously didn't happen, but I want to dive right into the main event. I want to get to the meat and potatoes here, right? I'm watching the fight, and I would give him definitely the first two rounds. The third round was more up in the air. You could go Stipe. I could still lean towards DC. And then, of course, that fourth round, Stipe attacked the body, and it paid off. And I saw DC's post today, and, like, he's just apologizing to everybody. I'm like, he is the last person that needs to apologize for anything. Like, he had an amazing performance. What is it like? You train with DC. You see day in and day out. He holds himself to such a high standard. What is it like just seeing that whole process?
I mean, most guys at the top do hold themselves to a high standard. You know, they expect a lot from themselves, and they put in the work to expect that from themselves. I expect a lot of myself too. Yeah, you know, it sucks. I had DC winning that fight. I thought it would have looked different from the last fight. More grappling, more wrestling. But yeah, you know, I think it's still such a attractive thing to get coaxed into standing and trading more often than maybe you need to.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when you have Olympic level wrestling, I think that should be the priority, at least until you establish control or you start wearing somebody out. That's just my opinion. The other fight, I got one of the fights wrong I got all my picks wrong. So Romero lost.
Really?
I thought Romero was gonna, you know, he's just a powerful guy, so you never know with him. And then I thought that Pettis was going to beat Nate because Nate's had a long layoff, but I thought it was at 155. So I think Pettis beats him 155, but, like, when you have that extra, you know, little bit of weight on you, like, it matters. You're hitting a bigger, 15-pound heavier person. It's harder to move that around. The blows and the strikes are coming in heavier. It's harder to move the body around.
Right.
You tend to give it to the bigger guy.
Okay, actually, you know, we'll lead up to that heavyweight fight because now you brought up Romero, and I want to get to that too. So Romero versus Costa, I feel like it's like the new breed versus the old generation, even though Romero ages like fine wine. He's just like a tank. And it was such a great fight, right? It had like fight of the night written all over it, and it really is. But I felt, again, and I don't know if this is just his style, is it his mentality? I feel like he's a slow starter. And then he always picks it up in like the second and that third round. And everyone's like, oh, Romero won. And he's always in this razor close. Well, not always, but he tends to be in these razor close decisions, like with the Whitaker fight. It could have went either way. A lot of people thought he beat Whitaker. Is that just a mentality, or is it the way he approaches it, or is it just style? Why is he?
It can be. Man, like, I've been known to start slow a little bit too. But it's not always that I start slow. It's that everybody else kind of fades and it looks like I pick up, but really I'm just saying. But I mean, I've had to change some things around where I try to start a little faster. Because it's true. It's like, I don't know, some guys, they got to get that sweat broken.
Yeah.
Once you get that sweat broken, they're loose and they start feeling their flow and they get into a rhythm. And those are the guys you try to catch before they get that sweat broken.
Right.
But yeah, some guys, they just, as they start getting warmed up, they start taking more risks. They start feeling more comfortable. It starts opening up.
Is that maybe you warm up a little harder in the warm-ups?
Man, I don't know about that. I would talk to if you had some kind of coach, mental coach, sports therapist, maybe something where you're getting past that initial step. It's kind of like jumping off the diving board. You're
Yeah.
on a 30-foot diving board. It's the first step. But once you take the step, you're all right. But sometimes, like, even though like, you're in the cage and the fight started, you haven't taken that first step yet. Some guys, the first time they get cracked in the mouth, they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, it's a fight."
Right, we're in a fight.
Yeah.
I feel like the 5 rounds is perfect for him. Like the 3 rounds, I feel too short for him. Like those 5 rounds against Whitaker, that 4th and 5th round, he's
getting
deadly.
warmed up.
Yeah, that's just perfect for him. And I was watching it, I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be a razor close decision if he doesn't take off his head, because the 2nd round was up for grabs, and the 3rd round you could say Romero won, but Costa won the 1st round. And I don't think Costa. And now I'm not trying to be a hater here by any means. It's not trying to have a bold take. I don't think he's ready for Adesanya or Whitaker. I don't personally feel that way. It's almost like a Darren Till got rushed into the welterweight title shot. I feel like that's what's going to happen to Costa, because I see him losing to either or. I wouldn't mind if they ran this fight back.
Well, yeah, I mean, kind of depends. Like how many fights do they have? How many fights do they have that they can put together right now? I don't know if they're gonna be able to do it anytime soon, but I think they're gonna move him up. I mean, they don't really have anybody else to fight those guys, so they've got to build that guy up and put him in there. I mean,
that's true.
It's just kind of what it is. I mean,
okay.
it'd be nice if we could cross promote and you could find somebody at the same level in another promotion. That would be pretty great.
Okay, hold on. So we're getting into cross promotion here. You hinting at something here?
No, I'm just saying, if we had an actual free market, if we had actual free agency in the fighters,
right?
If we're an actual combat sport and ran like a sport like boxing, we could cross promote. You wouldn't have these type of situations where Acosta clearly doesn't really have anybody else to fight except that top tier guys.
Yeah.
But he might not be ready.
Yeah.
Well, he's kind of stuck. Well, this is a situation where the promoter and the fighter himself would benefit from opening up the gates and having a larger pool to fight against and compete against.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. So, okay, let's kind of shift gears into this Nate Diaz Pettis fight. You're looking at it, you're a welterweight yourself. So when you're watching these fights, are there some fighters or fights that you want that you wish you could have that are maybe some fighters in the UFC right now?
Any of those fights would be great. I feel like for the most part, in the welterweight division especially, the wrestling is garbage. It's fallen off. Even the good wrestlers don't wrestle anymore.
Really?
They don't. I feel like everything has been so rewarded, or the false reward of stand and bang, that a lot of guys have just abandoned using any of that grappling or takedown ability. So they just stand and trade, and then you do that long enough, and you're not developing or harnessing those skills, or not keeping them sharp. I think like your wrestling skills are going to fade after a while.
Yeah. I mean, my rebuttal to that would be, I mean, look at Kamaru Usman. I mean, look at Colby Covington and Askren. I feel like the welterweight division is stacked with wrestlers.
Well, you named 3. How many?
That's true.
How many are in the division? How many are in the world?
That's a great point.
I think the sport in general, I think a lot of the wrestling has fallen off just because a lot of guys are under that fault merit system where they just stand and trade a win. Right. And I'm not saying I want to see everybody wrestle. I just want to see people come up with different strategies to win the fight. Like, use everything that you can.
No, that's a good point. Now, I have to ask you, as a welterweight, as another fighter, what is it, the atmosphere with Colby Covington? Like, he went into this arena and just got booed. Like, it was like
did he get booed worse than when Koscheck got booed up in Canada?
I think so. Like,
was it worse?
I don't know.
That might have been 50,000 people up in Canada, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Koscheck's like an all-time high. This was bad, though. Like, if you can hear it on the pay-per-view, it's like, oh, man. Like, it was bad.
So, I don't know. I don't really pay attention to him because it just seems cheesy. And like Koscheck did it better. Like, Koscheck did it way better. He did it way better, and he didn't do anything. He didn't pull any of the cheap, like, political, like.
Yeah.
It's really easy. Oh, I'll just throw on a MAGA hat and piss people off. It's pretty easy. Like, I don't even know if that's genuinely like anything that he believes. I feel like he's put on a show. But like,
Right.
yeah, I mean, Koscheck did it way better. People
Really?
passionately hated that guy, and he didn't do anything political about it. He was just mean.
Yeah, he was just season 1 a jerk to Chris Lieben.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Man, like Colby backs it up though. That's one thing. Love him or hate him. I mean, his last couple
he wins fights. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, like what he did to Robbie was impressive. I did not see that happening the way it did, and I think I do find it, me personally.
Again, it's some of my. All right, so guys, there are some tough guys out there, but I mean, there are some guys that are only, in my opinion, are only good if you fight them one way. And every other time, there's some guys that only fight well in one style. And if you change the style up that you're fighting against, it's an easy fight. And then people are, I don't know, I see it all the time. And then you get this guy who has a bunch of good fights because he's fighting other stand-up guys, and they want to stand up and trade. And then you get somebody in there who's hitting takedowns and willing to mix it up, and he gets slaughtered. And people are like, wait, what happened? One guy was kickboxing, the other guy was fighting MMA.
Right. Okay, so not to give away any secrets per se, but if you were to fight Colby, what do you think is the guy that beats Colby? Like, how do you have to approach somebody that fights that way?
Man, I mean, I prefer to be pushing the issue. You know, I like some guys have different aesthetic values. They have certain intangibles, so they have to lean towards their intangibles, right? So I have great cardio. I'm strong. You know, my intangibles are amplified in the grappling arena.
Right.
Some guys are going to have more speed, so it's going to be a little bit of a game plan. But I like pressure. I like wearing the guy out. You know, my cardio is something I can use to wear those guys out and constantly put them in a bad position of bad pressure. Some other guy might be a lot faster than me, and they may use a different strategy because they're a lot faster than me.
Right.
So it's hard to say there's one blanket way to deal with somebody. But, I mean, if you're making him move backwards, if he's defending your takedowns, and if he can't keep you on the ground, if he gets you there, you have a pretty good chance.
I'm about to say that's interesting. I think making the guy who normally or initially goes forward going backwards would be the key. And now it seems like him and Usman seems to be the fight to make, and both of them have a very similar style. They both put the pressure and go forward. So is it just who breaks the other's will?
It'll come down to a little bit of that, a little bit of who wants it more, and then a little bit of technique and skill. Who's able to turn the corner on that double leg? Who's able to back the other guy up to the fence? That's when you're going to start seeing who's better in certain areas, and they have similar styles.
Now you mentioned it, and I kind of want to touch on it a little bit. You're one of the classiest guys in the sport, and I always love watching you fight. Like, I'm not necessarily just drawn to the biggest trash talker. Now, of course, it's interesting. I'm like, okay, he's talking a lot of crap. I want to see if he backs it up. So I do get that aspect, but you did mention it, and I think it's 100% true. It doesn't come off authentic at all when he talks trash. Like, when I watch it, I'm just like, man, I'm just not buying this is how you truly feel. I think you're just doing it to get everyone to hate you, but mission accomplished at the same time, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you could say it's working, like, if whatever. people are going to do what they want to do. I honestly, I don't really pay attention to it. I'm the kind of person that, like, if you don't like something, if you're not into something, just turn it off.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't have to, you're not being forced to watch it. You can just turn it off. I don't need to sit around and discuss why I don't like it or how bad it is. There's too many good things in the world to focus on.
Yeah, that's what I like to think of. But now, who is the biggest trash talker to you? Has anyone gone to that extreme to just talk mad crap just to get in your head?
No, I don't think anybody's really talked trash to me because I don't care. It's just silly.
So that's just how you approach it. It's like, okay, say it's kind of like what Masvidal did with Askren in a way.
It's silly. Like, why? I feel like, I don't know. He seemed like he got a little upset with some of the things Askren was saying. He might have got under his skin a little bit.
It did.
But yeah, I just don't care. I mean, at the end of the day, okay, we're still gonna fight. Like,
right.
I've been insulted and called worse things. It's just not bothering me. I don't care. What did
you think of that Askren Masvidal fight? Now, he did get under his skin a little bit. You're right, but I mean, is that a fluke?
He's not a fluke. I mean, he practiced it. He was ready.
Yeah.
And I don't know. He saw a tendency for Ben to duck right then, so he took advantage of it. I don't know if it's necessarily a fluke, but it's definitely a wake-up call to a higher level, I think, for Askren.
Yeah.
You can't make a little mistake.
Yeah, flying knee to the face, the quickest knockout ever, is a little bit of a wake-up call.
Yeah.
So Nate Diaz put on an absolute show. He was just a grinder, big for Anthony Pettis, won the fight. And then he called out Jorge Masvidal. And he said, you're a gangster, but I'm the West Coast gangster type of thing. How do you see that fight playing out? Because I haven't really wrapped my head around it yet and just really dove into it. But my initial reaction is fireworks.
It'll be fun. It'll be a fun fight to watch. But it'll just be more of a backyard brawl, maybe, than an MMA, tactical MMA fight. There'll be a lot of standing and trading and throwing.
Yeah. I definitely think it's going to be a lot of fun because no one's going to look to take the other one down.
I wouldn't think so.
John, I wish I could see this cross promotion. I want to see you matched up with a lot of these guys and just see how you would do.
Well, if we get the Ali Act supported and passed, that's a possibility. If we get fighters with free agency, it's a possibility.
So is that in motion right now?
It's coming. It's in slow motion, very slow motion. It'll go faster the more fighters stand up and start pushing for it.
Okay,
but, as long as there are no fighters, standing up and making noise, then it's really easy for the UFC to pay lobbyists to go and talk to congressmen and people and get things blocked and get things not voted for. So it's up to the fighters to stand up and make something happen.
For those listening, like you're just new to the sport of MMA, what is this Ali Act that you're talking about?
The Ali Act is a federal bill that was passed in 2000 to protect boxers from promoters like Don King.
Okay.
And there's some things in there that we want, and one of them is if the champion wins a title, he becomes a free agent as soon as he acquires that belt. He's at his most valuable. He should be allowed to go into the open market and see what he's worth. We think cross promotions are important. Fighters should have to fight. Title holders should have to fight the number one contender at least once every 12 months. So we've seen this in boxing where the guy turns down a fight, he doesn't defend his title in 12 months, the belt is taken away from him.
Right.
Independent rankings so that the promoter has no say in what guy is ranked what. And lastly, we want to be able to look at the economics. We want to see the books. We want to see how much money was made and how much money was spent for every event. We want to know how much money we made for you. If we know how much money we made for you, we can negotiate better for the next deal.
So it sounds like almost fighter empowerment in a way.
Absolutely, and that's why they hate it.
And
UFC, they lock you up for contracts that never end. They will keep you for as long as they want to keep you.
How many fighters are behind this?
Well, publicly?
Yeah, publicly. How about that?
Yeah, publicly about 10 of us. I might be the only one that's active still. But they all privately want it, but everybody's too afraid that they'll lose the breadcrumbs they have access to now.
Right, they'll lose their connections, their resources. Now, is this what George St. Pierre tried doing, or is that just the fighters' union?
He was being manipulated by a group that was trying to hurt WME. CAA, the management company, they're direct competitors with WME. They're the ones that put together GSP and George Ramsey, whatever, that group. Obvious reasons.
Right. So this is in slow motion, and you believe it can.
Well, if you look at every sport, every professional sport, it's all gone through this. Everyone. It's inevitable. It will happen eventually, but it may take time. Even with boxing, like boxing has had a lot of changes over the years. It'll take time, but that's what it will be. It was the fighters coming to the realization that they're being screwed over and standing up and doing something about it.
What made you decide to be you're probably, like you just said, the biggest spokesperson for it, it feels like. What made you embrace that role? I
was just tired of seeing people get screwed over. I was tired of people earning things that they should have, and I get them. I was tired of promoters shitting on athletes. Just the overall abuse of the athletes. I mean, it's a game of pimps and hoes. Everybody is a pimp except for the fighters. The fighters are hoes. Everybody makes money off of us. You know, from cut men to journalists to everybody.
Right.
Everybody's making $1 off of us getting brain damage and physical ailments. Yet, we're the ones who are asked out making the smallest percentage of everything.
Right. No, that makes sense. Now, where's there hesitation? Like you just said, there's a lot of fighters who aren't willing to just speak up. And
yeah. Oh, they're terrified. For one, it takes a while to see how the sausage is made and understand it and get upset. Right. A lot of guys' careers don't last that long. So by the time they figure it out, they're already done.
Right.
And then the ones that do win enough and are good enough to stick around for a while, they tend to be scared because there are tactics that are used to prevent you from standing up and saying things.
Of course.
There was a batch of emails released like a week ago, whatever, a bunch of Joe Silva emails talking about their negotiating tactics. Like you could see just from those. I think it was last week, Buddy Elbow or something wrote an article about the tactics they're using. You know, oh, you'll take this fight for half your pay or we'll cut you type of stuff.
Wow. That's some deep stuff. Now, do you plan on being involved with this for as long as you want, or do you have a time?
I will see. I mean, we're still pushing on it now. Our class action lawsuit is still going through. We're 5 years deep. You start evidentiary hearings next week. I'll be there in Vegas next week for those. And that is, the judge is going to have hearings with the experts. So UFC has their experts. We have our experts. I think it's 3 on each side. And then they're going to question Joe Silva also. And the judge from that will make a decision on class, see if we have class certification, and see if we move forward.
This is huge. This is
yes.
huge.
Yep. And what do you know? There's absolutely crickets.
Yeah, I'm about to say
the media.
Wow.
Crickets. Mm-hmm.
So
beware the dog that doesn't bark.
Man, you're just dropping gems today, huh, John? So let's just say, in theory, this follows through. You guys get it. So that means, for example, so Israel Adesanya wins the belt. So he can fight anyone from any organization?
No. That's if we can get the Ali Act added to, if we can get the Ali Act expanded to encompass all combat sports.
Right.
Then, whether it's kickboxing, any sport over, I think, 12 or 15 minutes, something like that. I think it's 12 minutes. Will be considered a combat sport and will be protected by this stuff. So, if it's like a 12-minute long grappling match, it would fall under these rules. Kickboxing also. It becomes a major problem when the promoter or the event host controls the title. It's been illegal since the 1800s. There's not a single professional sport out there where the person who controls the title controls exclusive contracts. It's not allowed, because then the contracts become take it or leave it. You got to do what the promoter says, or you don't even get a chance to compete for the title.
Right. Wow, that's some mind-blowing stuff here. This stuff that I wasn't even really aware of. It's a lot to think about. You're working behind the scenes.
Yep.
My last thing I did want to talk to you about, though, for sure, is this DC Stipe thing. Now, you're teammates with DC. Do you see a trilogy, or I know he said he's going to talk things over and he may want to retire, because honestly, he really has nothing left to prove. Do you see that trilogy, just knowing who he is?
Yeah, he's made good money. He's got a future. He's doing the broadcasting stuff. He's done a lot. He's done it all. And I don't think he needs to. He doesn't need to. He could if he wants to for fun. If he just wants to take the challenge and see, let's just do it one more time, see what happens, see if I can, beat this guy, make the cash. But I don't know. I don't know if he needs to or wants to or if he cares to.
I don't think he needs to. But I feel like the competitor in DC end up
that's ultimately what it'll come down to, is if he's got the itch and can't shake it,
Yeah. Like if he were to win, I could see this being his last fight. And I thought he may have called out John Jones, but it would have been just a storybook ending. Considering it's a loss and he was winning those first 3 rounds, I think there's going to be a trilogy, John.
It's possible.
I think it's going to be a trilogy. So I
Very
think this
possible.
solidifies Stipe as the GOAT of heavyweight. I mean, it's kind of hard to argue that who he's beaten most title defenses. Is he your GOAT, or do you get into that Fedor discussion?
Man, that's a tough one.
Kane's up there.
Kane's up there. He just had so many injuries. It kind of messed with him a little bit. I think you'd have to look at competition level, like how many fights and against who.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a tough one. Because, I mean, Fedor is fighting guys that weren't being drug tested either.
That's true. Like just tanks.
And some of those guys were 300-400 pounds. So I mean,
he fought Crow Cop Jews.
Yeah, but Crow Cop, and he's just, I don't know. It's just a different time. I don't know if you can compare.
Right. Yeah, I think he's certainly up there. But John, you're killing it. You have one of the best Twitters out there. So please plug away your podcast, your shake breaks, all that good stuff. The floor is yours.
Yeah, check out Official Jon Fitch, my YouTube channel. I do shake breaks on there just about every day. Patreon.com/Jon Fitch. I got technique videos, and people also support my blogs and my live streams. Fitch and Tinkle Smash Everything. It's our podcast. It's up. Should be on every platform. I think that's pretty much. Go to johnfitch.net. Check out my blogs. Say what's up.
You're killing it. You're a busy dude. I always appreciate you giving me your time.
No problem, man. Thank you.
And I'll be doing some research about everything we talked about.
All right, man.
Thank you, John.
Later.